"Stop, don't carry her to the grave." The words cut through the cemetery like a knife. The two men holding the brown casket froze mid-step. Their arms trembled from the weight, but it wasn't the weight that stopped them. It was the voice, sharp, desperate, and loud enough to silence even the wind. People turned. The pastor, who had been talking about death and heaven, stopped in the middle of a sentence. His mouth stayed open, but no more words came out. And there, standing between the rows of black umbrellas and mourners, was a man no one expected to see at a billionaire's funeral. He looked like someone life had beaten again and again. His t-shirt was brown, torn at the shoulder, and stained with old mud. His slippers didn't match. His beard was overgrown and tangled. His hair was thick, rough, and messy like he hadn't touched a comb in years. His eyes were the strangest part. They were not wild like a madman's. They were steady, focused, certain. He pointed straight at the open casket. "Bring her out," he said again, his voice shaking now. "She's alive." Gasps spread through the crowd. Inside the casket lay Juliana Cole, the famous billionaire tech boss of Dollar Tech Company. Her navy blue suit looked perfect, expensive, and neat. Her hair was packed into a clean bun. Her hands were folded on her chest like she was only sleeping. But sleeping people breathe. And to everyone there, Juliana looked still, dead. That was what the doctors had said. That was what the family had announced. That was why the whole of Lagos was watching this burial like it was a movie. Juliana Cole was gone. Except this tattered stranger was saying the impossible. A tall man in black at the front stepped forward. "Angry already? Who is this?" Before anyone could answer, Juliana's younger brother pushed through the mourners with a face full of fire. Benjamin Cole. He wore a black suit so sharp it looked freshly ironed. His wristwatch shined under the sun. His jaw was tight, and his eyes looked like they could cut someone. He stared at the tattered man like he was dirt on expensive shoes. "What nonsense is this?" Benjamin snapped. "Who let this man in here?" The tattered man didn't flinch. He kept pointing at the casket, as if he could see something others couldn't. "She's not dead," he insisted. "You're about to bury her alive." Benjamin's face turned red. The crowd began to whisper. Some people shook their heads like, "This is crazy." Some looked at the casket again, suddenly unsure of what they believed. The pastor held his Bible tighter. The two men holding the casket looked like they didn't know whether to move forward or drop it. Benjamin lifted his hand and shouted, "Security!" Two thick men in black suits stepped out fast, like dogs released from a chain. They marched straight toward the tattered stranger. "Take this madman out of this place," Benjamin ordered. His voice was cold now. "Throw him far away. If he resists, deal with him." The security men grabbed the stranger by the arms. The man's body tensed, but he did not fight like a criminal. He fought like someone trying to stop a disaster. "Please," he shouted. "If you carry her to that grave, you will kill her for real." The security men dragged him harder. The crowd watched, frozen. Then a new voice cut in, calm but powerful. "Stop." Everyone turned again. A man stepped forward from beside the family tent. He was dressed neatly, not flashy, but the way people moved out of his path showed he mattered. Johnson, Juliana's manager. He looked from Benjamin to the tattered man and back again. His eyes were sharp, like he was measuring truth. "Benjamin," Johnson said slowly. "Why are you in such a hurry to silence him?" Benjamin scoffed. "Johnson, don't join this drama. My sister is dead." The doctor confirmed it. "We are here to bury her with respect." Johnson didn't blink. "Then you should have nothing to fear." Benjamin's lips tightened. Johnson stepped closer to the tattered man. "What's your name?" The stranger swallowed, chest rising like he was carrying a heavy stone inside him. "My name is Nicholas," he said. His voice was rough but clear. "Nicholas Adebayo." Some people laughed quietly. A few whispered, "Is this man okay?" Johnson didn't laugh. "Nicholas Adebayo. Why are you sure she is alive?" Nicholas's eyes flicked to Juliana's face in the casket, then to Benjamin, then back to Johnson. "I heard them," Nicholas said. The cemetery went quieter than before. Benjamin's face changed just for half a second. Not anger, fear, but he covered it fast. Nicholas continued, words rushing out like water from a broken tap. "Last night, I was at an uncompleted building. That's where I sleep. I don't have a home anymore. Some people shifted uncomfortably. A homeless man at a billionaire's burial, this felt wrong and embarrassing. But Nicholas didn't stop. They parked a car in front of the building, he said. 2 men came down. They thought nobody was around. But I was there, behind a pillar. Johnson's voice stayed calm. Who were the men? Nicholas pointed again, this time not at the casket. At Benjamin. Benjamin took a step forward. This is nonsense. Nicholas's finger didn't move. Him. And the family doctor. Murmurs broke out again. Doctor? Someone whispered. The doctor that confirmed her death? Another person asked. Benjamin laughed, loud and forced. Johnson, are you listening to yourself? This is a funeral. Are you letting a dirty stranger insult me? Johnson raised a hand to quiet Benjamin. Then he looked at Nicholas. What did you hear exactly? Nicholas's voice dropped. I heard Benjamin tell the doctor that Juliana must not wake up. I heard the doctor say, the injection will make her look dead. Even a normal doctor will agree. A woman in the crowd covered her mouth. The pastor's Bible slipped a little in his hands. The 2 men holding the casket stared at each other, their faces pale. Benjamin's face had lost color now, like someone wiped it clean. That's a lie, Benjamin said quickly. A big lie. But the speed of his denial only made people more uneasy. Nicholas shook his head, eyes shining with something painful. It's not a lie. The doctor said the plan was to bury her fast, before anything changes. He said if she stays too long, the effect might wear off. He said the grave will finish the job. The words dropped like stones. Bury her fast. Before anything changes. The grave will finish the job. Johnson's throat moved like he was swallowing hard. Where is this doctor now? Benjamin snapped. Johnson, you have lost it. You want to ruin my sister's burial because of a madman. Do you know the shame? Benjamin, Johnson cut in, louder now. Answer the question. Where is the doctor? Benjamin's eyes darted around like he wanted the crowd to rescue him. He is not here. He has done his job. Johnson took a slow breath, then turned to one of the men standing near the back. Call a different doctor. Now, one that does not work for the Cole family. Tell him to come to this cemetery immediately. Benjamin stepped forward, panic slipping into his voice. You can't do that. This is disrespectful. Juliana deserves peace. Nicholas shouted. She deserves life. The crowd erupted with noise now. Some people screamed, open the casket. Others shouted, let the doctor come. A few cried, what if it's true? The security men still held Nicholas, but their grip loosened. Even they looked unsure now. Johnson walked straight to the casket. He stared down at Juliana's face, searching for a sign. Anything. Her lips looked soft, not stiff. Her skin did not look as cold as a dead body should. Johnson leaned closer. Juliana, he whispered, as if calling her back. Benjamin pushed forward, stepping between Johnson and the casket. Don't touch her, this is madness. Johnson's eyes hardened. If she is dead, nothing changes. If she is alive. He stared at Benjamin. Then someone here is a murderer. Benjamin's mouth opened, but no words came out. Just then, from the far end of the cemetery, a car horn sounded. A vehicle was pushing through the crowd, moving fast, like it was in a race against time. People turned to look. Nicholas's eyes widened. That's him, he whispered, almost in fear. That's the doctor. The car stopped roughly. A man jumped out, white coat, face tense, walking too quickly. Dr. David. And the moment Benjamin saw him, Benjamin's face dropped like all the air left his body. Because Dr. David didn't look surprised to be called. He looked angry, like someone whose plan was being ruined. And as he walked toward the casket, he locked eyes with Nicholas. And smiled, not a friendly smile, a warning, a promise. Then Dr. David said, loudly enough for the crowd to hear, who is disturbing my patient's burial? And Benjamin, Juliana's brother, whispered under his breath, shaking, Nicholas, you should have stayed under that building. Dr. David walked closer to the casket like he owned the ground beneath it. His white coat was too clean for a cemetery. His shoes had no dust. His face looked calm on the outside, but his eyes were tight and sharp, like a man trying to control a fire in his chest. He stopped beside Benjamin and placed a hand on Benjamin's shoulder, almost like a warning touch. Then he looked at Johnson. I'm Dr. David Okori, he said loud and proud. The family doctor. I certified Juliana Cole's death. So whatever this drama is, it needs to end now. The crowd murmured again. Some people stepped back as if Dr. David's words were enough to push fear into the air. Johnson didn't move. He stared at Dr. David for a long second, then said, "Doctor, if you are so sure, why do you look like you ran here to stop something?" Dr. David gave a quick smile. "Because this is disrespectful. People are disturbing the dead." Nicholas, still held by security, raised his voice. "She's not dead. He is lying. He sedated her." Dr. David turned to Nicholas like he was finally noticing a mosquito that wouldn't stop buzzing. "This man," David said, pointing, "is a homeless troublemaker. You can smell him from here. Why is anyone listening to him?" Nicholas's cheeks burned, but he didn't look down. "Look at her," Nicholas begged. "Please, don't you see? She doesn't look like a dead body. She looks like sleep." Benjamin suddenly shouted, "Enough! Security, take him away now." The security men tightened their grip again, but Johnson lifted his hand. "No one is taking anyone away until we confirm something." Benjamin snapped his head toward Johnson. "Confirm what?" Johnson's voice rose, calm but firm. "Confirm if Juliana is truly dead." Dr. David laughed softly, pretending it was funny. "And how do you want to confirm that? Bring a stethoscope to a funeral?" Johnson stared at him. "If that's what it takes." The laughter died. The crowd went quiet again, the way people go quiet when something terrible might be true. Dr. David's jaw tightened. "You are wasting time," Nicholas shouted. "That's the point. He wants time to waste, so she will die for real." That sentence hit everyone. A woman screamed, "God forbid." A man whispered, "This is wickedness." Benjamin took a fast step forward and grabbed Johnson's sleeve. "Johnson, you can't do this to our family name. Lagos is watching." Johnson pulled his arm away. "If Lagos is watching, then Lagos should watch the truth." Dr. David's eyes flashed. He looked at the casket again, then at the grave nearby. The open grave looked dark, waiting like a mouth. Then Dr. David leaned close to Benjamin and whispered something. Nobody heard the words clearly, but Johnson saw Benjamin's face twist in panic. Johnson's heart began to pound. If Juliana was truly dead, Benjamin would be sad, not afraid. But Benjamin looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff. Johnson turned to the security men. "Bring Nicholas here." Benjamin barked, "No." But the security men hesitated, and that hesitation told Johnson everything. Even they were starting to doubt. They released Nicholas and brought him forward. Nicholas moved quickly, like he was afraid Juliana might slip away any second. Johnson faced him. "Nicholas, you said you heard their plan. Tell everyone exactly what you heard." Nicholas took a deep breath. He looked at the crowd, then at Juliana, then at the open grave. His voice trembled, but his words came out clear. "I heard Benjamin tell Dr. David that the company papers were almost ready. He said, once Juliana is buried, nobody can stop him from taking everything." Benjamin's face tightened. Nicholas continued, louder now. "Dr. David told him not to worry. He said he used a special injection. He said Juliana would look dead, no pulse that normal people can find, no response, nothing. He said it would fool even a hospital doctor if they don't check deeply." The crowd gasped. Dr. David lifted his hands. "This is a lie." Nicholas pointed at him. "He also said there is an antidote." That word made Johnson's eyes widen. "An antidote?" Johnson repeated. Nicholas nodded quickly. "Yes." Dr. David said, "If anyone suspects, he can claim it's too late. But he said the antidote can wake her up if used in time." Johnson turned to Dr. David slowly. "Is that true?" Dr. David's lips pressed together. Benjamin shouted, "Johnson, are you mad? Are you really asking my doctor questions like he is a thief?" But Johnson didn't look at Benjamin. He kept his eyes on Dr. David. Dr. David tried to smile again. "This is foolishness." Johnson stepped closer, voice low but dangerous. "If it is foolishness, then prove it. Let another doctor check her right now." Dr. David's smile broke, just a little. "And if she is dead?" David asked. "Will you apologize to the Cole family in front of all these people?" Johnson nodded. "Yes." Dr. David's eyes flicked to Benjamin again. Benjamin swallowed. Then Dr. David said, "Fine." The crowd breathed out like one body. Johnson signaled to his assistant, A young man with a phone. Is the independent doctor coming? The assistant nodded. Yes, sir. He's close. Dr. David's face changed again. No. There is no time. You said you want proof. I am here. I will prove it myself. Nicholas shook his head fast. No. Don't let him touch her. But Dr. David already stepped toward the casket. He reached into his coat pocket and brought out a small penlight and a stethoscope. The crowd leaned in. Dr. David bent over Juliana and placed the stethoscope on her chest. He listened. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then he straightened up. No heartbeat, he announced. No breath. She is gone. Benjamin exhaled sharply, like someone who had been holding his breath. Then he pointed at Nicholas. You see? He's lying. Remove him. But Johnson didn't relax. Instead, Johnson stepped forward and said, Let me see. Dr. David frowned. This is not how medicine works. Johnson held out his hand. Give me the stethoscope. Dr. David's eyes flashed. You are not a doctor. Johnson's voice was ice. And you might not be one either. That sentence sent another wave through the crowd. Dr. David's face tightened. Are you accusing me? Johnson didn't answer. He simply reached for the stethoscope. For a moment, Dr. David looked like he might refuse. Then slowly, he handed it over. Johnson leaned over Juliana and placed the stethoscope on her chest. He listened. His face remained serious, but inside, his mind raced. He didn't hear what Dr. David claimed. Not clearly. But he heard something else. A faint sound. Like a small, weak flutter. Johnson pulled back sharply. He stared at Juliana's face. Then, he looked at Nicholas. Nicholas whispered, almost crying. You heard it, didn't you? Johnson's throat tightened. He looked at the crowd and shouted, She's still here. Benjamin stepped forward, furious. Johnson. Johnson raised his hand. Nobody move the casket. Benjamin's voice cracked. You are trying to destroy us. Johnson pointed at Dr. David. You said no heartbeat. But I heard something. Dr. David's face went pale for the first time. And in that moment, Johnson saw it clearly. Dr. David wasn't confident. He was scared. Johnson turned to his assistant. Call the independent doctor again. Tell him to come faster. Dr. David suddenly stepped forward. Stop. You are creating false hope. Nicholas shouted. He's afraid because the antidote is running out of time. Johnson spun toward Dr. David. Where is the antidote? Dr. David blinked. What antidote? Nicholas moved closer, voice shaking. You have it, or you know where it is. Dr. David's eyes hardened. This man is insane. Johnson took one step closer to David, his voice low and fierce. Doctor, if she dies because of delay and we later find out she was alive, your life will be finished. Dr. David's hands trembled slightly. Benjamin grabbed Dr. David's arm. Let's go. But Dr. David didn't move, because at the edge of the cemetery, another car had arrived. A man jumped out holding a medical bag. He wore plain clothes, not a white coat. He moved fast, pushing through the crowd. I'm Dr. Akinwale, the man announced. I got your call. Johnson turned toward him, relief and fear mixing in his chest. Dr. David's eyes widened. Benjamin stepped back, and Nicholas fell to his knees and whispered like a prayer. Please, save her before it's too late. Dr. Akinwale approached the casket, opened his bag, and pulled out a small device. He leaned over Juliana. Then he paused. His face changed, and he said, quietly but loud enough to shake the entire cemetery, She is not dead. Benjamin's knees almost buckled. Dr. David took one step back, like he had been slapped, and Dr. Akinwale added, eyes sharp on Dr. David, Who sedated her? And where is the antidote? The cemetery stopped breathing. Dr. Akinwale's words hung in the air like thunder that refused to fall. She is not dead. For one long second, nobody moved. Then chaos exploded. People screamed, some cried, others shouted prayers out loud. A woman fainted and had to be held up by 2 men. The pastor dropped his Bible completely this time, his hands shaking as he whispered. Benjamin staggered back like someone had punched him in the chest. Dr. David's face drained of color so fast it looked like all the blood ran away at once. That's impossible, Dr. David stammered. You must be mistaken. Dr. Akinwale didn't even look at him. His eyes were fixed on Juliana's chest, on the slow, shallow movement barely lifting her suit. She is breathing, Dr. Akinwale said, very weakly. If we waste more time, she will not survive. Johnson felt his heart slam against his ribs. He turned sharply to Dr. David. Where is the antidote? Dr. David swallowed hard. His mouth opened, then closed again. I don't know what you are talking about, he said, but his voice shook. Nicholas stepped forward, tears already running down his face. You said it yourself. You said the antidote would reverse it. Dr. Akinwale finally looked up, his eyes sharp and angry. Dr. David, answer him. What drug did you use? Dr. David took another step back. Benjamin rushed to his side. Don't say anything, Benjamin whispered, but people close enough heard him. That whisper was louder than any shout. The crowd turned on them. What is he hiding? Why is he running? God save this woman. Johnson raised his voice above the noise. Dr. David, if you don't speak now, you will answer to the law. Dr. David's shoulders dropped slightly, like a man whose strength had left him. He glanced at the open grave, then at Juliana's face, then at the hundreds of eyes watching him. I used a heavy sedative, he said quietly. The cemetery froze again. Dr. Akinwale's face hardened. What sedative? Dr. David hesitated. Dr. Akinwale stepped closer. Say it. Zolan tracks, Dr. David whispered. Dr. Akinwale's eyes widened. That drug is restricted. It can stop breathing if overdosed. Dr. David nodded weakly. It slows the body until it looks dead. A wave of horror moved through the crowd. Nicholas clutched his chest like his heart was breaking. You were going to bury her alive. Benjamin suddenly shouted. Stop lying. You said it was safe. Every head turned to Benjamin. Dr. Akinwale looked straight at him. You knew. Benjamin froze. For a second, his mask fell. And in that second, everyone saw the truth written on his face. Juliana's own brother had known. Johnson stepped forward, his voice shaking with anger. Where is the antidote? Dr. David wiped sweat from his forehead. In my car. Johnson turned to security. Bring it, now. 2 security men ran toward Dr. David's car. Dr. David dropped to his knees. I didn't want it to go this far, he cried. He said it was the only way. He said once she was gone, everything would be settled. Benjamin screamed, Shut up! But it was too late. The truth was spilling out faster than anyone could stop it. Dr. Akinwale bent over Juliana and began checking her pulse properly. Her oxygen level is dangerously low, he said. We have minutes, not hours. Nicholas moved closer, his hands shaking. Please, she has to live. Dr. Akinwale looked at him briefly. You saved her already. Now let us finish the job. The security men returned, one holding a small black case. This is it, one said. Dr. Akinwale grabbed it and opened it quickly. Inside was a small vial and a syringe. The crowd held its breath. Dr. Akinwale drew the liquid carefully, his hands steady despite the pressure. Everyone step back, he ordered. Juliana lay still, her chest barely moving. Nicholas whispered, Please, Juliana, please. Benjamin tried to move forward, but 2 security men blocked him. Dr. Akinwale injected the antidote into Juliana's arm. Then, nothing happened. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. The silence became painful. Nicholas's knees buckled. God, he whispered, don't let this be too late. Dr. Akinwale kept watching. Then suddenly, Juliana's fingers twitched. A sharp gasp tore from her throat. She coughed. Hard. Once. Twice. She sucked in air like someone coming back from drowning. The cemetery erupted. She's alive. She's alive. People screamed, cried, prayed, hugged strangers. Nicholas fell to the ground, sobbing openly now. Dr. Akinwale supported Juliana's shoulders as her eyes fluttered open. She blinked, confused. Her lips moved weakly. Where am I? Johnson rushed forward, tears in his eyes. Juliana, you're safe. Juliana turned her head slowly. Her eyes landed on the open grave. Then on the casket. Then on the crowd. Understanding crashed into her like a wave. She pushed herself up suddenly, strength fueled by shock and anger. What is this? She demanded hoarsely. Why am I in a coffin? No one answered. Her eyes searched the crowd. Then she saw him. Benjamin. Her brother. She stared at him, disbelief and pain fighting in her eyes. You, she whispered. Benjamin stepped forward, his hands shaking. Juliana, I can explain. Juliana stood fully now, and without a word, she slapped him. The sound echoed through the cemetery. Benjamin stumbled back, stunned. Tears filled Juliana's eyes, but her voice was strong. You wanted to bury me alive, she shouted. After everything I did for you. The crowd went silent again. I took you from nothing, Juliana continued. I made you a manager in my company. I trusted you with my life. Benjamin fell to his knees. I'm sorry. Juliana turned to Dr. David. And you, she said coldly. You took an oath to save lives. Dr. David bowed his head, shaking. Juliana took a deep breath. Then she pulled out her phone. Her hands were steady. Police, she said clearly. I want to report attempted murder. Gasps rippled again. Within minutes, sirens filled the air. Police officers arrived quickly, pushing through the crowd. Johnson pointed. Those two, Benjamin and Dr. David, were handcuffed. Benjamin cried openly now. Please, I'm your brother. Juliana didn't look at him. Dr. David collapsed completely, begging for mercy. They were dragged away. The cemetery slowly emptied, but no one would ever forget what they witnessed. Juliana turned then to the man in the tattered t-shirt. Nicholas stood there, eyes red, clothes dirty, heart full. She walked toward him slowly. Everyone watched. You, she said softly. You saved my life. Nicholas shook his head. I just told the truth. Juliana reached out and held his hands. They would have buried me, she said. But you stopped them. Tears ran down Nicholas's face. I know what it feels like to lose everything. Juliana looked at him closely. Come with me. The words surprised him. Where? He asked. To my house, she said. I want to hear your story. As they walked away from the cemetery together, cameras flashed and people whispered, the billionaire and the homeless man, side by side. And somewhere behind them, the open grave waited empty. But far away, in the police van, Benjamin screamed in regret. Because he knew Juliana was alive, and everything was about to change. The gates of Juliana Cole's mansion opened slowly, quietly, as if even the house itself was careful not to frighten her. Nicholas stood at the entrance, frozen. He had walked past houses like this before, huge walls, tall gates, shining lights, but never in his life did he imagine he would enter one as a guest. Still wearing his torn brown t-shirt, still smelling of dust and old nights, still feeling like he didn't belong. Juliana noticed his hesitation. Come in, she said gently. You're safe here. Safe. The word hit Nicholas harder than anything else that day. He followed her inside. The mansion was calm, bright and quiet. No shouting, no lies, no fear. The air smelled clean, like peace. They walked into Juliana's private study. The room was filled with books, awards, and framed photos from business events around the world. Everything spoke of success. Juliana sat down slowly, still weak but steady. Nicholas remained standing. Please, she said, pointing to a chair. Sit. He sat, stiff and unsure. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Juliana broke the silence. You saved my life, she said again, her voice low. I still don't understand how God placed you there at the right time. Nicholas swallowed. I don't believe it was luck. Juliana tilted her head. Then what was it? Nicholas looked down at his hands. They were rough, cracked and scarred. Pain, he said. Pain teaches you to listen. Juliana leaned forward. Tell me. Nicholas took a deep breath. I was not always like this, he began. I used to wear suits like your brother. I used to sit in offices like yours. Juliana's eyes widened slightly. I was a bank manager, Nicholas continued. I worked hard. I believed in honesty. But one day, a crime happened, money disappeared. Juliana listened carefully. They blamed me, Nicholas said. I was framed. The real thieves were powerful. I spoke up, and they crushed me. His voice cracked. I lost my job, my house, my reputation, my friends, even my family stopped picking my calls. Tears filled his eyes, but he did not wipe them. I fought, he said. I went to court. I begged. I shouted the truth. Nobody listened. After a while, I had nothing left. Juliana's chest tightened. I ended up on the street, Nicholas said softly. Sleeping in uncompleted buildings. eating from leftovers, watching life pass me by. Silence filled the room. Juliana felt her throat burn. And yet, she said, you still chose to save a stranger. Nicholas looked up. Because I know what it feels like to be helpless. When I heard them talking, I couldn't stay quiet. Even if they beat me. Even if they killed me. Juliana stood up slowly and walked closer. You were brave, she said. When everyone else stayed silent. She paused, then added, Nicholas, I want to help you. Nicholas shook his head quickly. I didn't save you for money. I know, Juliana said. That's why I want to help you. The next morning, Lagos woke up to shock. Every news channel carried the story. Billionaire nearly buried alive. Homeless man stops funeral. Brother and doctor arrested. Nicholas watched the television from Juliana's living room, unable to believe his eyes. That's me, he whispered. Juliana entered the room, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit. Get ready, she said. For what? Nicholas asked. For work. Nicholas blinked. Work? Juliana smiled slightly. You told me you were a bank manager. Dollartech needs someone who understands numbers and integrity. She handed him a white envelope. Nicholas opened it slowly. Inside was an appointment letter. Account officer. He read aloud, stunned. Dollartech Company. His hands began to shake. I can't, he stammered. Look at me. Juliana stepped closer. I'm not looking at your clothes. I'm looking at your character. Tears streamed down Nicholas's face. No one has trusted me like this in years, he said. Juliana placed a hand on his shoulder. I trust you with my life. That is more than a job. Nicholas nodded, unable to speak. 2 days later, the court proceedings began. Benjamin and Dr. David were charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and fraud. The evidence was heavy. Recordings, witnesses, medical proof. They were found guilty. Life imprisonment. Dr. David's medical license was revoked. The public praised Juliana for her strength. But Juliana felt no joy. She felt pain. Pain that her own brother wanted her dead. Pain that greed almost ended her life. At work, Nicholas proved himself quickly. He worked quietly, honestly. Employees who once looked down on him slowly respected him. Juliana watched him from a distance. She admired his humility, his patience, his kindness. Weeks turned into months. Juliana healed fully. Nicholas rebuilt his life. And something else began to grow slowly, quietly, dangerously. One evening, Juliana stood on the mansion balcony, watching the Lagos lights glow like stars on the ground. Nicholas joined her, keeping a respectful distance. Thank you, she said suddenly. For what? Nicholas asked. For reminding me that life is fragile, she replied, and that good people still exist. Nicholas smiled faintly. Their eyes met, and for the first time, neither of them looked away quickly. The air between them changed. Juliana felt her heart beat faster. Nicholas felt it too, but neither spoke, because both were afraid. Afraid to hope, afraid to love again. Somewhere far away, behind cold prison walls, Benjamin lay awake at night, thinking, regretting, and planning how to beg for forgiveness, while Dr. David replayed the moment Juliana coughed over and over in his head, because freedom was gone, and time was moving, and outside, in a mansion filled with light, 2 broken lives were slowly finding healing, unaware that the hardest choice between justice and forgiveness was still waiting ahead. The evening breeze on the mansion balcony was soft and warm. Lagos glittered below like a sea of tiny stars, cars moving slowly, people living their lives unaware that something fragile and beautiful was happening above them. Juliana stood by the railing, holding a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. Nicholas stood a few steps away, his hands clasped behind his back like he always did when he was nervous. For months now, something unspoken had lived between them. Gratitude had turned into respect. Respect had grown into care, and care had quietly become love. Juliana broke the silence. Nicholas, she said softly, do you remember the day at the cemetery? Nicholas nodded. I remember every second. I was supposed to be gone, she said, buried, forgotten. She turned to face him. But I'm here, alive. Because you spoke. Nicholas swallowed. I only did what was right. Juliana smiled sadly. Doing what is right is rare. She took a slow step closer. For a long time, she continued, I told myself I didn't need anyone. I built walls around my heart after betrayal, after loss. Nicholas listened, his chest tight. But then, she said, her voice trembling, a man who had lost everything chose to save me, for nothing. She reached for his hand. Nicholas froze. Juliana looked into his eyes. Nicholas Adebayo, I care for you, more than gratitude, more than friendship. The world seemed to stop. Nicholas' eyes filled with tears. Juliana, he whispered, I am not the man the world sees when they look at you. She smiled gently. I don't love the world's opinion. Nicholas slowly stepped back. Then, without a word, he dropped to one knee. Juliana gasped. Nicholas pulled out a simple ring, his hands shaking. I lost everything once, he said. My name, my pride, my future. But you gave me a second chance. He looked up at her, tears falling freely now. Will you give me a lifetime? Juliana covered her mouth, crying openly. Yes, she said. Yes, I will. They embraced, holding each other as the city lights watched quietly. Months later, Lagos stood still. The wedding of Juliana Cole shook the city. The billionaire who almost died, the man who came from the streets. Their wedding was celebrated with joy, music, and tears. People who once doubted now celebrated. When Juliana walked down the aisle, she wasn't just a billionaire. She was a survivor. And when Nicholas stood waiting, he wasn't a former homeless man. He was a man who chose truth over fear. Their marriage was simple, strong, and full of peace. 9 months later, laughter filled the mansion again. Juliana gave birth to a baby boy and held the baby in her arms. Nicholas stood beside her, his eyes shining. Our son, Juliana whispered. They named him Jonathan, a name that meant gift from God. Nicholas kissed Juliana's forehead. He is proof that life can begin again. Years passed. Dollar Tech grew stronger. Nicholas rose through leadership with honesty. Juliana led with wisdom and kindness. And deep inside her heart, there was still a wound she had not touched. Benjamin, Dr. David. 10 years passed, 10 long years behind bars. One morning, Juliana sat quietly in her study, holding 2 letters. They were worn and folded many times. Apology letters. From prison. Nicholas stood nearby, watching her carefully. You don't have to go, he said gently. Juliana looked up at him. I know. She stood. But I want to. The prison gates were heavy and cold. When Benjamin and Dr. David were brought out, they looked nothing like the men from the cemetery. Their shoulders were bent. Their eyes were tired. When they saw Juliana, they froze. Benjamin dropped to his knees. So did Dr. David. We are sorry, Benjamin cried. We destroyed everything. Please, forgive us. Juliana stood still. For a long moment, she said nothing. Nicholas stood beside her, silent support. Juliana finally spoke. I lost 10 years of peace, she said calmly. I lost trust. I almost lost my life. Benjamin bowed his head, shaking. But, Juliana continued, holding anger is another prison. She took a breath. I forgive you. Benjamin sobbed loudly. Dr. David covered his face. Juliana turned to Nicholas. Nicholas nodded. She withdrew the case. The prison gates opened. As they stepped out, Benjamin and Dr. David knelt again, this time in gratitude. Juliana helped them stand. Go, she said, pick the pieces of your lives. As Juliana and Nicholas walked away hand in hand, the sun rose behind them. Nicholas looked at her and smiled. You are strong, he said. Juliana smiled back. No, I am alive. And sometimes, that is the greatest victory of all. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.